The soul becomes dyed with the color of his thoughts. We have a quick game that I got to play with a buddy of mine, Chameleon, the dog fighter, right? Not like many people, because in most games that I play, if I swing, they duck. If they swing, I might duck. Or there's a counterpunch, right? With this guy, no. If I swing, he swings. And it's about who hits the other person hardest or fastest. He does not stop, unrelenting. So that's what we get into here. I play the E-Pawn, he plays the Sicilian. And the beautiful thing about this guy is that he will play anything. He might play a Sicilian, he might play a Carl Khan, he might play D6, he may play D5, he may play E5. You never know what you're going to get out of him. Never know. And I love that. I love that about playing him. So here he plays that C5. Immediately I play the Smith-Morra Gambit, trying to take the center and get that rapid development so I can push hard and fast to his front door. He plays back with D5, never to be outdone. I play D4, he plays D5. I capture. And in this game, I get scared, I get nervous, and emotions go high. The cortisol goes high. I am fearful of this game. At the end of it, I do well, but it feels like a loss because of how the game was played. So here we are. Immediately I play that check. And so what I'm looking at here is that, yes, the queen does have access to this G2 square and potentially to that rook over on H1, but I'm also looking and I see that this E file is open for the queen to play on. So I'm trying to figure out how to get rapid development and simultaneously how to be safe doing so. So I play that bishop to B5 check. I should have took more time, analyzed the position, but I don't know. Anxiety ran high and these were the moves that I made. So please come with me on this blunder train. He plays that knight to C6, getting developed. And so I see that, he brings his knight out, covering these E5 and this D square, the D4. So in turn, I do something similar. I bring my knight out to try to contest these squares. And he brings the bishop down, pinning that knight. So now I notice that when we look at it, there's a queen hitting the knight, there's a bishop hitting the knight, and that bishop is creating a pin on that queen on D1. So there's a bit of a problem here. Not to mention that this knight is also holding this D-pawn, which it just so happens to be that his knight is simultaneously attacking that square and his pawn is attacking that square. So this does not feel comfortable. It does not. I played pawn to C4 and I knew from the moment I let it go that this was a terrible move for me because I can't get the bishop back to E2 to break that pin that this bishop has on my knight onto my queen. So I'm leaving my own bishop out here in no man's land to try to do something. Yes, it's pinning the enemy knight, stopping it from jumping directly into the fray so that it can hurt my knight, but it just doesn't feel good. So he plays that check because I'm kicking the queen away. I get to develop the bishop, yay. I get to support that pawn on D4, yay. But when he castles, I don't care if the computer thinks it's a mistake. What I'm looking at here is this rook bearing down on my queen. Is that rook bearing down on my D4 pawn? So now when I look at it, I see four attackers on that D4 pawn. One, the queen, the pawn, the knight, the rook. It just doesn't feel good. So I capture, removing one of those attackers. I'm trying to pull his queen back to get his queen away from the center. He takes back with the pawn. Yes, it opens up his side of the board, but it still doesn't make me feel good because I don't feel like I can control the tempo of the game yet. Yes, I know that his pieces are still at home on those starting squares. They're not in the fight yet. They might as well be removed off the board because they're worthless. But when I'm looking at it, I don't see a quick way where I can infiltrate the enemy position with support. With support. I don't see my knight or my bishop coming to aid the queen inside of this assault quickly. So I play knight up. And the reason I play knight up is because, one, I'm attempting to break this pin that the opponent has on that pawn, on that queen. But two, I'm trying to support this other knight. And three, I'm trying to kick out the enemy queen. He plays queen down. So we notice here that this queen is stopping my king from castling. So now I can't run away, which is trapping me in the center of the board to a certain degree. So here, I capture the pawn. He plays f6. I pull queen out. So I'm using this queen to attack these 2 points simultaneously, making it so the enemy king has to step up to try to guard those 2 different points, using his king as a defending piece. So now I can potentially get the castle to the queen side, bringing that rook into the fight, using that to bear down on that d-file. What ends up occurring is the king stepped back. I play the queen up, and this was a silly move, because what I'm looking at is, hey, I'm going to attack that rook. By attacking that undefended rook right here on d8, what's going to happen is the opponent is probably going to step this rook up. When he steps it up to d7, once the rest of these pieces clear, that bishop and that knight, it's no longer going to be anchored to that other rook, which means that once I castle and bring this other rook into the fight, I can skewer this queen and that rook, making it harder for him to defend. Yes, it'll still be defended by the bishop, but that's okay. That's okay. But what I don't notice is very simply, hey, the enemy queen is protecting that rook. So me moving the queen up to attack that rook does nothing. It does nothing. It does not help the position at all. I overlook that. He pushes the pawn. I castle. Now we can use this rook to try to skewer that queen and that rook. He pulls the bishop back. So we notice here is that he's creating that battery with the queen, and he's looking at that c2 square and that b1 square. If either one of those knights, if the knight on d1, on d2 moves, he's going to get that checkmate, he's going to get that checkmate there. So I have to find a way to guard that c2 square. In the event that the queen was back on a4, where it should have been before I went for that attack that didn't exist, it would be covering that c2 square, but that's not the case. So I bring that knight back to e1, kicking the queen away, while simultaneously I'm also protecting that checkmate square. So one knight protects one checkmate square and the other knight protects the other checkmate square, kicking it and repositioning that knight. Now, seeing that the enemy pieces are still on their starting squares, I'm attempting to use my knights to come and attack his king on the queen side of the board. He pulls the queen back. When he does so, I pull my knight over. The reason being is that I want to reconnect these rooks once they were connected, and because I pulled that knight back, they were no longer connected, meaning that for me to be able to pull off that skewer that I want to do, I cannot move this knight for fear of getting checkmated again over here on d1. So I have to first move the knight to reconnect the rooks. Now I can move the other knight from here. He plays a pawn g5, pushing that pawn up. I get to pull the knight over. So now we notice that this knight is skewering this queen. Also, this queen is attacking that rook, and this rook is attacking that rook behind that queen, which means that the rook's going to fall. So potentially the rook's going to fall. So what he does is, instead of pulling the bishop down to block off that square, which I'm sure neither one of us seen during the game, what he does is he moves the queen over, knowing that my knight is supporting my queen. I happily take that rook. I snatch the rook off the board. He develops the knight. I pull the other rook. Once upon a time, these rooks were connected on this first rank. So now, why not connect them again on the D file? He pushes the pawn. I notice here that his queen's somewhat trapped. If we look at it, the queen can't play back here because of the rook. Can't play over here on D7 because of the rook. Can't play here on D6 because of the pawn and the rooks. Can't play here on B6 because of the pawn. Can't play here on A5 because of the knight and because of the queen. So the queen's essentially trapped there. So I don't want to help the queen by exchanging, so I'll pull my queen back. He plays A6. I bring the knight in. So now my knight and my queen are working together to take out that pawn while the rook holds the king and the queen from being able to run anywhere. He pushes the pawn, or he develops the bishop, and I get that checkmate. In this game, it was scary because my opponent came into my position. He completely infiltrated my position and forced me to push him back. It did not feel good the entire game, even though we were able to keep his pieces out of the game, keeping that knight and that bishop and that rook out of the game. It still didn't feel good.